What reference can we use to measure the Australian dollar more accurately? The first step is to analyze that Australia's iron ore is mainly exported to China, but China's iron ore does not come entirely from Australia, and a considerable part comes from Brazil and some other countries. In the past few years, China consumed nearly 2/3 of the world's iron ore. It can be said that China's economic situation and China's actual demand determine the price trend of iron ore. The second step is to analyze that China not only affects Australia's iron ore prices, but also affects Australia's housing prices. Australia is a country with a population of only 24 million, but it is the 12th largest economy in the world. As we all know, the global economy has been struggling to recover in recent years, but it is difficult and has great resistance. The Australian economy is relatively not bad. What is this related to? Regarding immigration, Australia has a relatively high immigration threshold. It attracts many rich people, especially rich people. Because it attracts many rich Chinese people to immigrate, there is a special background. Canada and the United States have successively tightened immigration to China, which has forced many rich Chinese people to turn their immigration goals to Australia, becoming the second largest country for immigrants to Australia. The characteristic of Chinese people is that they buy houses first when they land, which continuously pushes up Australian housing prices. Of course, this also promotes the development of Australian housing, and the development of housing will also promote the development of Australia's real estate development industry. Real estate development itself will bring about the development of iron ore and the demand for iron ore. This makes Australia's housing prices continue to rise in the context of a general global economic downturn, and Australia's economic growth performance is relatively bright. What does this mean? This means that the Australian economy is affected by the large number of Chinese immigrants buying houses, pushing up housing prices, and driving the rapid development of real estate, which offsets some external influences. In this way, the price of iron ore will have a phased deviation from the trend of the Australian dollar. Even in the case of a decline in international iron ore prices, the development of Australian real estate will support economic growth and offset some of the impact of the decline in iron ore prices. As you all know, the 811 exchange rate reform in 2015 was a very important event in my country. It can also be said to be an important financial event in the world. This event also had a great impact on the world. When I was analyzing the impact of the 811 exchange rate reform with some friends, I said that after the 811 exchange rate reform, we should stop shorting the Australian dollar. If we want to short, we should choose other products. We can't short the Australian dollar. Why? After the 811 exchange rate reform, the RMB depreciated significantly, and a lot of funds flowed abroad crazily. A considerable part of it would first flow to Australia, and the investment funds flowing to Australia would first choose to buy houses in Australia. Why did I make such an analysis? Firstly, due to the high tax rate in the United States and the long waiting time for investment immigration, the United States is not the first choice. Secondly, on February 11, 2014, the Canadian government announced the adjustment of its immigration policy and suspended federal investment immigration applications indefinitely. This means that the Canadian government has ended the investment immigration program that has been implemented for 28 years. The backlog of 66,000 investment immigration applications has been rejected across the board, and 57,308 of them are from China. As we all know, China's immigration applications are mainly from the rich. After Canada's door is blocked, a large amount of Chinese funds will flow to Australia. In this case, the Australian dollar can no longer be shorted. Please pay attention to my analysis. We are still analyzing from the perspective of spatial thinking. Only by using spatial thinking can we see this point thoroughly. Many people don't understand why I said at the beginning it is a bit grand and even a bit illusory. Some people say that it is not compatible with our specific investment operations. In fact, it plays a very important role. When our class reaches this stage, almost everyone can clearly feel the huge role. The third step is to analyze that due to the increase in immigration to Australia and the large increase in the number of international students, this has brought new growth points to Australia. For example, overseas student education has become Australia's largest export service industry. It is second only to coal and iron ore and is Australia's third largest export industry. The increase in immigration, the increase in overseas education, the active real estate market, and Australia has many unique natural environment resources. Its tourism industry is also developing rapidly. Pay attention, developed education and tourism will also increase its housing sales. Why? Those who study abroad and those who travel may also buy houses locally because of the environment in Australia. So at that time, analysts from research institutions said that Australia's unique conditions have enabled Australia to survive the global economic recession and maintain a high employment rate and a high economic growth rate. This unique aspect of the Australian economy has also caused a periodic divergence between the Australian dollar and the price of iron ore. Through the above analysis, we should also see another conclusion. What is the conclusion? Australia's economic situation and the trend of the Australian dollar are closely related to China. It can be said that among the major foreign exchange products in the global foreign exchange market, the Australian dollar has the closest connection with China. And what is the reference that best reflects China's economic situation? That is, rebar. Therefore, rebar can more accurately reflect the trend of the Australian dollar. If this feature was not so obvious before, it is not so prominent, then in the future, this advantage will become more and more obvious. The price of rebar peaked on September 4th, and the Australian dollar also peaked on September 8th.